The Isaiah Factor Uncensored starts right now.
And welcome to the Factor Uncensored. We begin tonight an upcoming controversial construction project in the 3rd Ward area. Part of that area, officially known as Riverside Terrace, the city of Houston has approved a plan many residents are saying hell no to. A brand new 17-home townhome development complex. For decades now, the area has been home to primarily black families. A homeowner I spoke with says their main concern is runoff water and simple respect of the community by the city of Houston. They say this opens the door to other housing developers making their move into their community. So guys, we're here in Riverside Terrace, and there's going to be a new development right here on this land. Right. And your problem with that is what?
That we don't want there to ever be a new development of the 17 townhomes that are proposed. We are seriously concerned about that because the city ordinance requires anytime you do a variance or replat a property, you're supposed to give notice. We got no notice. I've seen them put notices up in Memorial. I've seen them put notices up in River Oaks Heights. Why is it that Riverside Terrace, this is the second battle we've had. We had the attempt to make the historic district over on the other side, and now we got this, and neither time did we get notice. And that is just not right. This is a safety concern for us because of the aged infrastructure that exists in 3rd Ward.
And Melanie, for those who may be wondering, would it be considered residential or would it be considered business? And does that matter in getting a notification to the community? I know when they build like new businesses, they'll put up a notice.
Right. So Isaiah, it would be considered residential, not business, even though they plan to place 17 townhomes on one lot. It is residential. However, you know, the city is saying that that is single family, even though you have 17 single families on a lot. And Tamara is absolutely correct. I mean, you know, what we really want the city to do is to abide by its own ordinances and state law. You know, the same equal treatment that they would apply to any other community. The communities have a right to have knowledge before something like this is placed into their community, which will change the entire character of this community. I mean, look around. We have all single-family homes here, right? That's one home on a lot, not 17. So, you know, the community should be notified that something like this is coming in.
Now, many people say tomorrow, this is why there should be zoning in Houston. Would you agree with that, disagree with that? Your thoughts on zoning? That way, only certain things can come to certain areas.
I want to be honest with you. I have limitations on zoning. As much as I fight for communities, I understand the ramifications of when you have zoning, but there definitely needs to be, once you do what you do to keep your community, the deed restrictions in this community go back to 1938. And the people who used to live here, where there was one home for over almost 80 years, signed those deed restrictions, and they were in effect for that lot for over 30 years until the owner died and the wife became very ill. Now they want to tell us none of that counts and they can change it. That is wrong. They wouldn't do this anywhere else, and we are not about to stand for this. I mean it. We are not about to stand for this. This is one of the most high-ranking African-American communities in the United States. The PBS did a movie about this neighborhood called This House Is Not For Sale. Ebony Magazine did a special on it. Texas Monthly just ranked it as one of the most affluent African-American neighborhoods in Texas. And now you want to do something like this and say we're not relevant? We're not having that.
Well, many people will see this and the first thing will go in their minds, gentrification. Is that a concern that a bunch of young white people will move into these townhomes? Is that a concern of yours?
You know, gentrification is always a concern with any community, right? Particularly that of African American community. And when you're not taking into consideration the culture and the character of the neighborhood, that's really what this is about. Now, is it about that, you know, young white folks are moving? This is a highly diverse community already. So that's not the issue. You know, you have people fighting this battle who are white, who are black, who are brown, you know, so that's not the problem. The problem is the city of Houston is saying that this lot has never been platted. Therefore, these folks the community does not deserve notice. There's been one home on this lot since 1938. So you can't redefine what platting is to suit your needs or to suit the needs of outside developers. And I'll tell you something, Isaiah, that's the bigger issue. The bigger issue is not whether or not outside white or black or others are moving in. The bigger issue is outside developers coming in without taking into consideration the concern of the neighbors. And this issue that's going on here is not just here, it's happening and can happen in any community in Houston. I was just contacted just yesterday by a community in the Heights, and the issue is whether or not the city is abiding by its own ordinances and state laws, and basically circumventing the law and circumventing the community so that developers and others, and when I say the city, I mean specifically the city planning department. That's who I'm talking about.
Yes.
And so what are your elected representatives in this area saying about this? Obviously, you have a city council member, a state representative, you have the state senator who lives in this area. Are they all behind you, or are they asking questions as well?
Some of them are asking questions as well. But when we had our battle in Riverside with the historic district, I'll be honest with you, we didn't have the support we felt we deserved to have. So we had to do that and fight on our own. And that's what we keep showing the city repeatedly. We will fight for this area. I've been in this neighborhood since 1980. Since I got here, I've been in this neighborhood. The people over here value this community. And it's not that the city doesn't have the ordinance, but you cannot cherry pick who you're going to enforce it for and don't enforce it for others. We pay our property taxes just like everybody else. So we should not be relegated to whatever mood the planning director is in that day. And then the lawyer of the city going around and then adding his layer on top of what she said, even though they know they're wrong. So that is why we are out here fighting the way we are, because we're not about to sit up here and just let them do this and say, well, y'all don't count.
And we want transparency. You know, we've asked the city planning director and the attorney, provide us, this particular developer submitted 5 different applications to replat this lot. Some of them we believe were approved for 8 townhouses. Then he increased it to 17 townhouses. I mean, we would like complete transparency of what has happened on this lot, what they have approved previous to this, and what is the plan moving forward. We have yet to get it to this day.
And the mayor told me on record at city council that whatever we wanted, whatever we had asked them for, they would give us. That was 2 weeks ago. On that Tuesday, he told us he would provide us, that we didn't have to go through TPIA, that they would provide us, and they have not done that. They have not at all. And not wonder, we know he had a replat in his application. You don't replat what ain't been platted.
Now, here at The Factor, we always get both sides. Stay with us. We have the official response from the City of Houston's Planning Department next. Stay with us. And welcome back to The Factor Uncensored. We're following up with the anger and frustration felt by some homeowners in Riverside Terrace in 3rd Ward. A lot of them feel disrespected about new housing plans. They say the City of Houston didn't give them any notice before approving a new townhome complex for the area. A representative with the city says there was no need for a notification, and here's why. And joining us here on The Factor Uncensored tonight is Jennifer Oslin with the City of Houston. Jennifer, for those residents who say they're concerned about this complex moving into their facility, which would actually be 17 townhomes, and they said they were not notified by the City of Houston.
That is correct. Our rules, which are governed by state law, require that we provide notice to property owners when a developer is requesting a variance from the rules.
And really quick, for the viewer who's looking and watching now, what is a variance?
The city has a set of development standards, and sometimes developers, or property owners say, I can't meet that standard. I would like to get relief from that requirement. And so we call that a variance.
And in this case, there was no variance.
No variance was requested. The other time where we provide notice to property owners is when the property that's being developed is out of a subdivision that has deed restrictions that restrict it to single family use. This stuff gets a little complicated, but what that means is, I think that in this case, there's Riverside Terrace has is a big subdivision, and then there's a number of sections, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and those sections have include a number of lots in them. The particular parcels in question were not included in that subdivision. Their legal description is straight out of a survey, so they were never part of a unified development.
So there are no deed restrictions for this particular lot we're talking about?
There are deed restrictions for this lot, but they are different from the deed restrictions for the other parcels in the Riverside Terrace subdivision. And so if I buy into a parcel that's in a larger subdivision, I have have knowledge that everybody else must abide by these same deed restrictions. So if I'm going to change that lot, then I need to notify everybody in that subdivision. In this case, this parcel was just outside of a subdivision. It had never been in a unified development scheme or a subdivision. So there was nobody really to notify. Nobody had the same deed restrictions as this parcel.
And so when you have a situation when residents in a community are upset about a developer coming in, doing something like this, do they have any recourse, any options out there?
If they can come to Planning Commission, if there's anything on the Planning Commission agenda, those are all open meetings. Anybody can come and speak before Planning Commission on any item on that Planning Commission agenda. Once it's been approved by Planning Commission, there really is no public forum. State law and city ordinance say that the Planning Commission must approve subdivision plats that meet the code, meet standards. So, and the same with building permits. If they meet our codes, then we have to approve them. We can't just stop them because maybe there's some concerns from the neighbors. So in those cases, the best really option is to try to talk to the developer. A lot of developers will work with communities if they just understand what the concerns are. But there's not much you can do to stop it altogether unless there's a code violation or deed restriction, something like that.
So when their concern may be flooding as well in the area, thinking there may be runoff water, how do you address that? Or is that your issue at that point?
That is not our issue. What we're really looking at Planning Commission is boundaries and where streets are located, how people are going to access their property, things like drainage, driveways, just construction is handled at the building permit process. So usually people come to Planning Commission first, they get approval to subdivide their property, then they go get the permits that they need to build their project.
All right, Jennifer Osland from the city of Houston, we appreciate your time. It seems like in this case, the train has left the station. So we appreciate your time in explaining this to us here on The Factor Uncensored.
We'll continue to follow this story and share many or more updates as they become available.